All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're putting science on trial. I mean, think about it. It gets blamed for everything, right? Atomic bombs, our crazy, stressed-out lives. But what if I told you the final verdict in this case is something you would never, ever expect? So, the argument we're digging into today starts with a really bold claim. The author basically says, hold on a second, science is getting a bad rap here. The whole idea is that we've got science all wrong. And because of that, we're pointing the finger at it for problems it didn't actually create.
Okay, so to really get where this defense is coming from, we've got to start with a foundational idea the author puts forward, the link between science and, well, civilization itself.
And wow, they don't pull any punches. The claim here is pretty stark. Science and civilization go together, hand in hand. And on the flip side, religion, well, the text says it walks with ignorance. Now, this isn't just about cool tech or buildings. This is a deep claim about how we exist, fundamentally.
So you're probably asking, what exactly does the author mean by civilization? It's not what you might think. We're not talking about smartphones or skyscrapers. Nope. It's defined as this: conscious, voluntary way of behaving. It's about being in harmony with each other, with society, with nature. And the key part? It's all based on correctly understanding how the world, both material and non-material, actually works. And to make this idea super clear, the author gives us something called the banana peel test. It's brilliant, actually. Picture this. You're on a bus. You finish a banana. What do you do with the peel? Do you just chuck it out the window? That's uncivilized. Maybe you're a bit more civilized and you hide it under the seat. But to be truly civilized, you take it with you and find a proper trash can. See? It's all about your awareness of your impact on the world around you. All right, let's get to the main event, the accusation. What exactly is science being charged with? Here's the case for the prosecution. And you've probably heard these before, right? People blame science for creating horrific weapons, for wrecking the environment with pollution, for making our lives a million miles an hour, even for making us feel kind of empty and disconnected. The author points out that for a lot of people, science is totally the villain of the story. So, this is the big question the author wants us to ask. If science isn't the real bad guy here, then who is? What's the real culprit? Is the problem with science itself, or are we missing the point completely? Okay, now for the defense's argument. And this is where it gets really interesting, because the whole thing comes down to one simple but powerful idea: the difference between the tool and the user. Think about it like this: a knife. A knife isn't inherently good or bad, right? In the hands of a chef, it creates a beautiful meal. In the hands of a criminal, it can cause harm. The knife is just a neutral tool, while the author argues that science is exactly the same. Its impact, whether it's good or bad, depends completely on the person using it. And to show just how kind of silly it is to blame the tool, the author lays out this chain of blame. Let's say someone, Jia Wang, commits a murder. Okay, so who's to blame? Do we blame his parents for having him? Or maybe his grandparents? Let's keep going. What about the ancestors of all mankind? Or the earth itself for existing? You see where this is going. It's a slippery slope that takes you all the way back to this absolutely absurd conclusion that the greatest creator is responsible for murder. And that's the whole point, right? Blaming the tool, whether it's science or a weapon, just doesn't work logically. The author argues that responsibility has to stop with the person making the choice, the user. Now, this next part is absolutely key to the whole defense. Because to make this argument work, you have to get really specific about what a scientist actually is. So the author splits it into three categories. First, you have the scientist. Think Isaac Newton discovering gravity. This is someone who uncovers the fundamental rules of how everything works. Then you have the inventor, like Thomas Edison with the light bulb. He didn't discover electricity, he just applied the existing principles to create something new. And finally, you have scientific workers who help out in the lab. The author insists these three roles are totally different things. And here's why that distinction is such a game changer for the argument. What about the people who built the atomic bomb using Einstein's theory? According to this definition, they weren't scientists. They were inventors or maybe engineers. See what that does? It draws a hard line between the pure, beautiful act of discovering a law of nature and the messy, sometimes terrible business of applying that knowledge. Okay, so we've heard the prosecution, we've heard the defense, and now it's time for the verdict. And let me tell you, this is where the argument takes a turn you won't see coming. So the verdict isn't just not guilty, it's something way more profound. The author argues that science, the pure act of discovery, isn't the enemy of spirituality at all. In fact, it's a product of the greatest creator. It's not a rebellion against a higher power, it's a tool given by that higher power.
And the logic goes something like this. If you believe a creator made the universe, you'd have to agree it's a pretty orderly place, right? It follows rules, laws of physics, and so on. So what is science? It's simply the process of figuring out what those rules are. In a way, by doing science, you're tracing the creator's own blueprint for the cosmos. You're walking the path they created.
And this leads to the final, most mind-bending twist of all. If science is the study of the creator's work, then who is closest to that creator? The author implies it's not necessarily the religious figures. No, it's the true scientists, the people who dedicate their lives to uncovering those beautiful, orderly laws of the universe. They're the ones having the most direct conversation with the creator. So we're left with this really provocative thought. If the path of science and the path of the creator are actually one and the same, what does that mean for everything we thought we knew about faith and reason? It completely reframes that age-old conflict, doesn't it? It leaves you wondering, what happens when the lab is also the temple?